Did it loop? Oh.
Hello, and welcome to Encounter Roleplay and our inaugural Roleplay Roundup, where we're never sure if the tech is going to work, but apparently it did because we're here, and hopefully you can hear us right now. Hello, everyone who is in chat hanging out. I hope you're all having a wonderful weekend. Lindy, how are you doing, friend?
I am doing super spiffy. A little tired, but that's on me for staying up too late last night. But yeah, I am very excited to round up all these wonderful moments of roleplay from the past week and just generic news and stuff that's going on. I feel so in the know right now.
I know. What were you up to last night? Was it TTRPG related?
It was actually not. I was actually out dancing, swing dancing. And then my sister stayed the night and told me about her tabletop RPG stuff. So, I mean, there was a lot of tabletop RPG talk, but I was actually getting physical exercise for once.
I've got that, was it Olivia Newton-John, Let's Get Physical, going around my head right now?
It's a good song.
But speaking of getting physical, speaking of getting fighty and physical, let's talk about some of the news that we have going on that we've agreed to discuss. Let's talk about Zweihander and Mangosh. A brand new release from Zweihander, sponsored here on Encounter Roleplay, of course. This is a wonderful supplement for Zweihander players and DMs, focusing on demon magic, more classes. So it's up to 186 classes, I think, now, which is insane. Wow. And they all complement each other. This isn't like tack-ons. This is, these are classes we couldn't fit in the actual book, which I should have next to me, but it's disappeared. These are, just classes we couldn't fit in there, so we put them in this book, and then they've tied it in with all of this demonic theming, which I think is super cool.
It's always cool when you can have like a tie-in theme, and I mean, who doesn't like demon magic in Zweihander? It's like the two just go hand in hand. They're just so lovely, so complimentary, and I can't wait to see some of these new classes. Because who doesn't like choices?
And if you look at the art, you might see some familiar faces. The cult leader in it is a questionable choice, but I'll leave that for people flicking through the art. The other exciting thing about it is that it has vehicle-based combat, which is something new for Zweihander. So this brings in the siege engines and similar into your game, which opens up whole new possibilities. There is also a full-length adventure in the back of the book. But the thing that always excites me about Zweihander is the illustration. They have one artist who hand draws all of these beautiful pieces. And why don't we go and take a look at some of those pieces right now? Hello! So we're back. So that was Zweihander Mangosh, which is available right now. And we actually have some little links for you that I will throw in chat with my commands, because I have that kind of power over here. And why don't we talk about the next piece of news, which is something you actually told me about, Lindy.
Yes. So I found out this week that WEIS Productions is not going to be available on DriveThruRPG after this month. So Firefly, Leverage, and other Cortex RPGs, if you buy them now or before the end of the month, they will still be available in your library, but there will not be any new sales. They have been bought by what I believe is the company Fandom, which are the folks who have D&D Beyond. So hopefully this means that we'll be getting some new Cortex books and systems and type things out, and hopefully they'll give it a bit of a rework to make it a little bit more smooth. But if you're really hardcore into Leverage or Firefly, I suggest you, because I don't know if they're going to make previous things available or not. There's not enough news about what they're going to be doing with it. I only know what's currently happening. So if you would like to look at those, check them out on Drive-Thru RPG, because I think some of them are even on sale still, some of the PDFs. So check it out. But yeah, that's a bit of news I found out this week, and I definitely know I'm probably going to be picking up the Leverage RPG because I already have Firefly. They're fun. You're muted.
That's it, I'm getting sacked. Last Saturday, I was over on Kobold Press playing Harper's Tale, which is a very interesting Indiegogo concept by Matt Corley and his daughter Harper, working with a whole host of writers who we will probably hear from a little bit later. And it's raising money for Friends of Children with Cancer, in addition to supplying copies of the book to children with cancer so that they can play, and offering you an amazing adventure module. This is a super exciting concept. I love that it's a charity. I love that you were getting a full product written by some of the best RPG writers out there. And I think we should hear a little bit from Harper about what she's excited about.
I'm excited for the to get the books to the kids. To give the books to friends of kids with cancer in person and stuff. Yeah. I've only went there 2 times.
Mm-hmm. That's super awesome. You'll definitely, and when we fund and we go over, we get to give even more copies. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And how close are we to funding? We're super close, right?
We're very, 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 very close.
So close. I believe we're at 95%.
We only need like a couple hundred. What?
What, 95%, right?
Yeah, we only need a couple hundred.
Yeah.
So we are at $11,486 right now.
And that was last Saturday, and we are here this Sunday, and they are, when I last looked, at 58% funded. And we have with us today the DM for the game that I played in, Harper's Tale. It was the first chapter, which you can get for free from, I believe, Drive-Thru RPG right now, Into the Grove, I think it's called. Kiana, welcome to Roleplay Roundup. How are you doing, friend?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me here today. I love hanging out with y'all. And yeah, Harper's Tale. Harper is the best co-host. She's my new BFF. She's great. I don't know. I'm one of the writers for Harper's Tale. I also, like Charlie said, I DM'd a one-shot showcasing that free adventure on Drive-Thru RPG. So yeah. Super cool stuff.
Can you tell us anything more about the project?
Yeah, so
maybe what you wrote?
Yeah, sure. So Harper's Tale, as was mentioned before, is a whole adventure path. So it takes characters from level 1 all the way through 10, with different writers tackling different chapters for each level. Super awesome stuff. We've got a bunch of really awesome writers. I am writing one of the middle chapters, which features some fays, some witches, and some interesting choices that you have to make about how you talk to people and try to get what you want. It's not always combat. We wanted to make sure for Harper's Tale that fighting was not the only solution, and that you could go about just talking to people and just being nice and heroes, because the whole thing is you're being Harper's heroes. That's what this project really is. So and actually the outline for Harper's Tale was created by Harper herself, along with her dad Matt Corley, when she was in the hospital. So this was kind of a way for them to create while they were during the hospital stay. And now we get to bring it to life, which is super cool. I'm super honored to be doing this, especially as a childhood cancer survivor myself. So I know the important work that organizations like Friends of Kids with Cancer do to help make sure that kids are able to be kids even as they go through cancer, make sure that they have a normal life and are able to have fun still. So with Harper's Tale, basically all of the net funds that we raise will be donated to Friends of Kids with Cancer. Also, there are a bunch of tiers. I don't know how many of them are left still, where you can basically donate so that you can also donate a copy of the book to a kid who benefits from Friends of Kids with Cancer. So if you can get a copy for yourself, you can give away a copy as well, so that a kid can have a great time playing through this awesome tale-esque forest adventure that tackled everything from grief to redemption to investigation of secrets, where nothing ever really is as it seems. So if that seems up your alley, you should definitely go and check it out. I think we're over 160 books and $8,000. Thank you, Matt, for putting those numbers in there. I was just quickly looking it up. So we've definitely overfunded. That's fantastic, and we're super. We're still a couple of weeks left until our campaign is over. So there's plenty of time to go, and you can again get a digital copy. You can get a print-on-demand copy. You can donate copies to kids, and they're all going to be hardcover as well, and filled with gorgeous art from a bunch of really awesome artists around the community, like Anna Landon and Gwendy B. There's a lot of really awesome stuff in there, really.
Awesome. Well, go ahead, Lindy.
Ooh, and apparently we can be their highest non-corporate fundraiser when we hit $26,000. So we are getting there. And how awesome would it be to be the D&D community is the biggest non-corporate fundraiser for this awesome cause that helps out kids with cancer.
Yes, I really like that the kids are getting books as well, because my baby sister had childhood leukemia as well, so she would have loved something like that when she was having her hospital stays and the like. So I think it's great, especially that they're being hardcover. It makes it really easy and durable for travel to and from places, from the hospital to home. That's going to be really good. I'm very excited to see how much gets raised total.
Yeah, and all the adventures are kid-friendly. So they work for families, and they're also super interesting for veterans alike. As we got to play out last Saturday on Cobalt Press, there's a lot of fun stuff you can do there. And you can adjust to whoever you're playing it with, but very easy to use. Super. I read it all in one day. I went, all right, let's go. And we had everything from a very cute dog to discovering secrets and defeating some bandits. So definitely check out that level 1 adventure for the first chapter of Harper's Tale, which you can find again on TTRPG or through the Indiegogo through their updates. It's a really easy way to get a taste of the really awesome stuff that this team is bringing together.
Awesome. So, Kiana, we will be hearing a little bit more from you later on, but for now, let's move on over. We've got a little bit more news to share with people at home. Did that work? Oh, it did. I didn't update the title, though. There we go. Boom. So Beyond the Basics came out this week, and this is a 76 encounter project, which features all of the base rules monsters in fresh new scenarios. I actually wrote 2 scenarios for this, and a lot of friends on the channel also contributed to this book, including Virginia, who is our DM on Dread. So please go and check that out. I believe it's $16.99, and this is a huge 40-writer, multi-artist project, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Lindy, what's your favorite basic monster?
I think there's 237 pages in there, which is just a massive amount of content. Oh gosh, favorite author. I know TK Johnson has some stuff in there, and they are just very good at writing spooky stuff and non-spooky stuff as well. So, I mean, there's just so many good people. Celeste Conowitch, of course you, Charlie, TK Johnson. I recognize Stephen Trafford, Virginia Page, just so many awesome authors and people that are in there. I can't wait. I need to get my hands on it. I'm just waiting for payday.
Steve, of course, is our DM, Hollowtail, who is your DM on Thursdays for Unhallowed Metropolis. So we're all in there. hiding out, having a good time. So please go check that out. We will throw the links over in chat for all of the things that we're discussing today, so you can go and find those things. And this is on the DMs Guild.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, speaking of DMs Guild, something else pretty big came out. And it's kind of our main item, our main segment for today. And I'd like to just show off the art first, I think. Show off the art.
It's some good art.
Bring some preamble about To Hell and Back.
Yes.
So To Hell and Back again is a adventure module written by Jonathan and Kiana, who will be joining us in a few seconds. But the front cover is this strange elephant creature being chased.
I love it. I want one.
What is?
I don't know what it is.
In the background? It looks like a car. I think we're gonna need to get some answers, don't you, Lindy?
Yes. I need to know what the elephant thing is so I can get one. I need it in my life.
All right.
What is the elephant thing?
Hi, Kiana.
Hello. The elephant is a holly font. That's the name, and it's an old school D&D creature, little used, little loved, but should be loved a lot more. And this specific holly font is Lulu, the holly font, and she is also probably the biggest NPC in Wizard's book that they just released, Descent into Avernus. And she's also the main character in ours.
Awesome.
Speaking
now I know.
Sorry, Lindy. You go. We're very excited.
Okay. I'm just very excited about this holly font. Now I know what it is, and I know its name. I love it even more. And I don't know. I need like a plush one so I can just hug it. It's so cute.
They should. I think I saw a plush one, but it doesn't have like the pink wings and the pink tail.
You gotta have the wings.
Yeah.
Now I know. The more you know.
Now, I feign ignorance, but I actually played through the whole of To Hell and Back again yesterday with Susie, who DMs Zweihander on Wednesdays, and we had the best time, because the cool thing about this module is it's written so that you can play in a number of different ways. You can play on your own, you can play with a group, or you can play with a group and GM-less. Now, this is something I've not really seen done before in such a compacted and well thought out way, and I'd love to hear more about your thinking behind this.
Well, we had been talking about doing it as a regular adventure, and then we just the idea of solo adventure came up, and there are a few solo adventures on DM's Guild. One of them, The Executioner's Daughter, was written by Ashley Warren. It's a different format, but it last year she released, I think it's a free download on DM's Guild. If you look up The Executioner's Daughter, it's pay what you want, so you can kind of check it out. And then there's a number of other solo adventures that have been released on DM's Guild as well. And I grew up reading Choose Your Own Adventure books and Fabled Lands and a lot of interactive fiction. And so I really love interactive fiction. And the only trick for Kiana and I was figuring out how to make it work with D&D, how to make it accessible for new players, because if it's even harder to play than regular D&D, then that's kind of exclusive. We wanted to make sure that the adventure module would be fun for people who know how to play D&D, but also be a really good first experience maybe for people who don't have a group, or for people who haven't played before or haven't played very much. So a lot of that went into the decision to go this route to make it a solo adventure.
Yeah, we wanted to be as flexible as possible. We have really cool stuff in there, and we want to make sure that we're not restricting our audience specifically to people who have a GM in a group, or are just playing by themselves. Giving the guideline, of course, we structured it as a solo adventure, but we wanted to give the guidelines for people to go on and spin off of this material, because that's the best thing about modules, is that you can adapt it to your own needs. So we put a lot of thought into how we can expand it out that way, and yeah, we both come from an interactive fiction background in a lot of ways, so it was just a matter of tweaking it to D&D, to having those branching choices with checks thrown in there, which was a challenge, but a good one.
Something I really appreciated about this is the introduction and basically rules are laid out in 4 pages, and then you are straight in to adventure. So to me, this book is pick up and play, and you could play it nearly anywhere. You just need a handful of dice, a pen, pad, paper, and the book, and you're good to go. You could do this all digitally with a dice roller app as well. And I think that applies to the accessible thing, because a lot of these books you pick up and you've got to read 20, 30, 40 plus pages before you can start thinking about building a character and all of this stuff. Whereas this, you've got 4 pages and it comes with pre-gens.
Pre-gens are very helpful for new players and for people who just don't want to spend the time to be like, oh, what do I want to make? Because I have that problem sometimes. I've made so many D&D characters at this point. It's like, I don't know what I want to play. So pre-gens can be very helpful in those situations.
Well, we spent a lot of time because other people, there are a lot of adventure modules where they'll give you rules for scaling up difficulty. So you could play this as a level 1 through 3, or you could play it as a 6 through 10, or here are the rules for scaling up if you have 3 people in your party, or 4 players, or 6 players. And we wanted to create rules that were easy for you to play on your own, for you to play with 2 people, 3 people, with a GM, without a GM, without getting very complicated or creating multiple stat blocks for every single encounter. And it took some math and a lot of play testing. We had some great play testers who worked on helping out with this. But the simple mechanics for the scalability of the module, so you play alone or with a group of people, is really, really easy. It's as simple as doubling hit points in some situations, doubling damage, and it's all laid out right at the beginning. And then at the end, we kind of, sample characters were kind of like one of the last ideas that we had, but once we had it, it went really, really well, because Kiana created these interactive sheets that are 1 page per level, and you level up from 1 through 3 in the adventure. So each sample character has 3 sheets. All of the information is there, so you can easily see it on your phone, whatever level you're at. You don't have to scroll through and find things. There's check boxes for spell slots and things like that you can save on the PDF so that you can save your progress. I loved how she put the character sheets together, and I think when we did that, we wanted to not just create like here's a PDF of a regular D&D sheet with everything filled in for you, but here's like, if you're a new player, here's the information you really need to play the game in a simple way.
Yeah, it was a very interesting challenge, taking a 3-page character sheet and turning it into 1, and make it not super crowded. I'm pretty happy with what we came up with, having a character sheet that had that's just 1 page that's just dedicated to knowing the character, knowing their background, any of the stuff that stays the same throughout. So like your items, or in our particular adventure, we have these mechanics of like traits that you pick up along the way. So things that will change how your character functions with the world. How, for example, we have fear of bony things, which can be a trait that something happens to you. And we have a place for you to write that down. So parts together. And yeah, they're all interactive. They're all form fillable. So they're easy to change and edit. You don't have to print them off to use them. You can very easily just use them in the PDF itself. And we have, of course, them as separate documents as well. So you can have the adventure open in one tab and the character sheets open in another tab, and it just makes it super easy to go back and forth without flipping through all the pages.
Now, another feature that I think is incredibly cool about this game is destiny points. I recognize this as a mechanic from various other places, but I think this really facilitates what you do with the solo group format, in addition to that temptation of, when you're doing those choose your own adventure books, of cheating, of checking both options before you choose. Whereas when you have destiny points, you have almost a get out of jail free card, but it is a finite resource, and it goes on to have a consequence. as do all of the choices made in this adventure, which I think is so cool. Because I think it's easy with the choose your own to offer arbitrary decisions, where it doesn't really matter if you go A or B, you'll end up at C. And it never feels like that with this book. So how much do you want to talk about the destiny points?
Oh, we can talk about the destiny points. Destiny points serve a couple of functions. One of them, when designing the encounters, the actual crunch of the adventure, allowed us to create enemies and encounters that were more difficult. So when you're a level 1 character, if you're playing by yourself, a rat can kill you. You know, a swarm of rats will definitely kill you. So we had to provide a little bit of cushion for you to actually have a meaningful adventure without just dying. And so destiny points allow you to survive encounters through a couple of means. You can use them to bypass encounters, though there are consequences involved. You can use them to, since there's no death saving throws if you're playing by yourself, because there's nobody to heal you. You know, you're not going to get back up. Destiny points kind of replace death saving throws in a way. And they were part of, when designing the math, to make it really simple to play 1 person, 2 people, 4 people. It allowed the flat math to work. So the doubling the hit points and the doubling the damage, depending on how many characters are involved, how many characters are playing the adventure, that only works because of destiny points. So we were able to play test that. And so it worked design-wise, and then narratively, it's kind of cool because it is this finite resource, and the more you spend, when you get to the end, it has consequences for what adventures come next, as do a lot of the decisions that you make. Traits were another one of those things we introduced that do something similar.
Mm-hmm. That was so fun to me, because it adds another like meta mini game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with the destiny points in particular, it's really, the narrative is that these are like the heroic moments that you can get, like the moments that you're just able to get by the skin of your teeth. We have like, oh, whoops, like a meteor came and just like accidentally killed these enemies for you. But obviously, if you keep having those, there's not going to be any danger. And obviously, a lot of what hell as a setting is that you pay prices to get to where you are. So using destiny points as this resource kind of helps to solidify that theme, that you're spending something to get to the end. And how the hell setting affects you by the end of the adventure is determined by how many destiny points you have. So it's a lot of fun to kind of play with that and see when people choose to use it, because sometimes you do need to use it because otherwise I'm going to die. It's the only way to get myself back up to my hit points. But there are other moments where you don't have to use it to survive. You can just use it to squeak by. So I'm proud of that mechanic. We had to go through a couple of iterations of it, but I think what we settled on helped to really tie a lot of the consequences to go forward with the character.
Lindy and I try not to interrupt each other again.
We try not to, and it becomes a game of no, you first, silently.
No. You go ahead, Lindy.
Okay. So when you were designing this module, was it originally going to be onto the DM's Guild? Were you designing it with that kind of audience in mind?
Yeah, it really was. We talked about because we wanted to write something together, and we talked about a few different ideas. Mm-hmm. And DM's Guild's not something either one of us have done before. Generally, like most of my work, I've been working for other publishers where they hire me to write something, and then, once I'm done writing it, somebody else is worrying about the design and the play testing and all of those elements. But I was really interested in the DM's Guild as a platform. They provided us a lot of free assets, and that was really interesting to me, because to create a book is expensive. You have to pay for art and layout and editing. You know, there's a lot of costs involved with producing an adventure module that probably most people wouldn't even think of unless they'd actually try to go through that process. And so then there's always a risk that you can't crowdfund the money to create the book, or that you won't make the money back because you've spent a couple of $1,000s or more to create the book. We were able to keep our overhead real low because of the DMs Guild, and they take a larger percentage than other publishers, but in my opinion, it's totally fair. And it also allowed us, because you can't write in the Forgotten Realms setting, or in Ravenloft, or in Eberron or Ravnica. You can't write in those 4 settings for D&D unless you write for DMs Guild. So we were really interested. As soon as I heard about Descent into Avernus and Infernal War Machines, I was kind of all in, and that was the way. This was the way to do it, and that's kind of how the conversation started.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of, and we ended up kind of looking at how a lot of DMs Guild adventures were set up, and in order to kind of pull from what were the best practices. A lot of what we do was pretty to prepare for this was pretty self-taught. Where Dawn does a lot of work for publishers, I do a lot of indie games, where I end up writing micro games and laying them out over on Itch.io. So we're very different approaches to publishing. So with DMs Guild, it was a new experience, but learned a lot from it. And yeah, the free assets were like 90% of our art. It's free assets, I think, within this, and there were very easy ways to get the templates for a lot of the layout stuff as well. So that, yeah, and it really helps to connect what we made to the storyline that's come out and all the other really cool products that have come out as well around Descent into Avernus. I believe we're part of a bundle or something like that that's happening right now on DMs Guild for this. So, yeah.
And congratulations on your Coppercella Award.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you.
That was a surprise. That was a great surprise.
Hopefully we can get you up and continue through the metals until I have no idea what the top one is. Gold, I would guess.
Oh, it's like
Platinum? Mithril?
Adamantium, right? Adamantium. I can't.
Oh,
yes. Yeah,
there's a lot of different kinds of metals.
Lots of metals. Wolverine's claws are the best. That's what.
That's fair.
Confirmed
Fair.
here. So, how long did it take you to do this? Because I heard you did this on a very tight timeline.
I want to say it was really like 6 weeks. And when I say did it, we're still tweaking it. You know, we still have released several updates with small fixes as things become either like mentioned to us or apparent to us. One of the things is that when you write a book, you usually have an editor who like painstakingly goes through every single word. And we've had a number of people help out with this book, but it's still a very bootstrap, indie self-published production. So there's little tiny things that we're finding and updating, but I want to say it was about 6 weeks from when we started writing until when we hit the publish button.
Yeah, and that doesn't count a lot of the time that we took to brainstorm this idea. It definitely was not we immediately want to do this. We knew we wanted to write something. And we've been talking about writing something for half a year, something like that. But as soon as D&D Live happened, when we kind of saw what was going on there, Infernal War Machines, Hell, and Lulu, we both kind of fell in love with that, but we wanted to put our own spin on it. So we talked a lot about how can we get adventurers bought into this? How can we set it up as a prologue? Not really knowing what the final Descent into Avernus was going to be. So there's a lot of interesting guesswork and research that we put into that. But yeah, 6 weeks of actual writing and editing and play testing. And layout itself took a solid week and a half, I think, to go take all the words that we made. I think about 90 pages in the Google Doc. and turning it into a nice looking PDF. So that was a lot of work. And yes, the name of the module did have to be changed about 3 days before we published, because we realized that there was a little bit of an overlap with the official adventure. But we're happy with the new title.
Yeah, we love the new title. I thank you, Twitter, like a randomly retweeted spoiler of the table of contents of Descent into Avernus came out like a week before the book came out. And I was like, I'm just going to look through this table of contents. I wonder what I can guess about this. And I saw that the final chapter's name was Escape from Avernus, which is what we had originally titled the book. And I was like, oh, we should change our name. We should change our name.
Yeah, this is what happens when you try to make an adventure for a storyline that hadn't come out.
Right.
Because we released it 2 weeks before the actual adventure got published. So that was a time. But good thing about doing it very bootstrappy like we've done it is it's very easy to shift things as needs be. Actually having design open right now as I do another round of tweaks on links and stuff like that.
So I have another question. You are obviously working with established settings, established characters. How do you go about doing that? I know that you didn't have the Avernus module when you were writing this, so I guess you had to make some intuitive leaps with things, but how do you approach that?
Some of the world, especially the Baldur's Gate region, has existed for a long time. So there's a lot of research that we did, and they're returning to like lore from the video game series and previous books that have been published to kind of get some of that right. So like the adventure begins very, very standardly. It doesn't end, like it goes off the rails almost immediately, but it starts with like a weird wizard named Chandelar hiring you to go deliver a message for him. He's going to pay you a huge reward of 200 gold pieces. For a level 1 character, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
So Chandelar and like that region that you start out in, that's actually, you know, pretty well explored territory. And even though Descent is a new book, there have been previous adventures about the Blood War and about the setting. So there is information out there. Some of the characters like Lulu, and Infernal War Machines, which are kind of new as well. We listened to podcasts and interviews with Chris Perkins. D&D Beyond did a whole series on Descent, where Todd was interviewing various people who were writing the book. And Chris Perkins in particular had a lot to say about a few of the characters that we were interested in including. And because of that, we were able to guess pretty close. We did release an update after Descent came out, but we only had to change like 2 or 3 things to make sure that our vision wasn't kind of butting heads with the actual main book, because we do want people to be able to play our adventure and then go play Descent. That's the goal, is that they'll be able to take that character and play Descent, and their choices from our adventure will have a meaningful impact on the new adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a lot of research with D&D Live, which again is kind of where I found out a lot of this stuff, and I was just like, hey Don, so what if we did this? I think I sold him using Lulu. I was telling him about Lulu, my new best friend. Love her so much.
Everyone's new best friend.
Yeah, as soon as she was announced at D&D Live, I was modding for Wizards on their live streams. As soon as she was announced, I'm like, oh no, I love her. I need to write. I need to do something with her now. So
when I was playing with Susie and we got to the point where Lulu appears, I'll try to do this as least spoilery as possible so you can all enjoy it. In the raw, I was like, oh yes, this is Dawn, Grim. Kiana's arrived. Here she is. But I was fascinated by what you told me, that Dawn wrote Lulu's dialogue, which forever changed Lulu's voice in my head. How do you find co-writing something, working as obviously 2 fairly distinct authors on a project and making it cohesive? And how did you share the writing on this?
we had a single Google Doc and a single manuscript, and we cross-edited. So when Kiana wrote a section, I would edit hers, and when I wrote a section, she would edit mine, so that we could. And we were constantly in communication with each other. So we were talking about, how do we want to, when this kind of thing happens, how do we want to word it? What are the rules of the mechanics, the language, and we're also both, I think, good listeners. And I think that being people who stream a lot, you have to listen when you stream. And we've also done a lot of things together. So I think we just kind of understand each other pretty well. And I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, and we had a lot of conversation before we even started writing about the overall art and like what we wanted out of it, the kind of feel, and whose piece is who's writing what piece and how that all fits together. You'll be able to I wrote chapter 1 and 3 and did chapter 2, so I covered a lot of the Fae stuff and did most of the Hell situation, but being able to cross-edit helped a lot to unify our voices. I think we have very flexible writing styles. We have similar writing styles, but we're able to kind of fit it into each other pretty easily. But yeah, communication is like with any collaboration is super important. And just having we didn't have a formal style and content guide, but that's essentially what we made. It's kind of this outline of, this is the content that we want to put in here. And this is the kind of styling of, when we talk about go to chapter 4, this is how we phrase that and format that. When we talk about, make this check and then go to this section, this is how we talk about that. So it was just a lot of check-ins. And although we weren't always writing at the same time, we often were. So we just block out a time together and we'd just be writing on different sections, which sometimes made it so that you would be writing a section and suddenly the Google Doc would shift a whole page. Yeah. It was like, oh, okay. But
we also like lobbed each other, because there are a lot of choices and consequences, and some of the choices you make early on don't come into play until later. And some of the choices you make in the middle come into play at the very end. And so we would be messaging each other like, hey, could you do anything with this item? Or if this terrible thing happened, would that have any impact on what you're writing? And so we were like setting up loose ends so that the other person could tie that loose end up. And I think that really helped us unify our voice too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it was a very interesting challenge as well, because not just two different voices writing, but two very different settings and like feels. Because we went from being like a Fae haunted forest to literally being transported to hell. Adventures, and it was just very weird writing, creating the promos and like the cover, because we're like, there's no particularly iconic setting here because we've got the forest here and then desert hellscape here. So it's it was a fun challenge to try to figure out how to unify those two and not seem like two different adventures, but actually seem like one. Which a lot happened because of the lingering consequences that stuff that happened in chapter 1 affects stuff that happens late in chapter 2. I think what was it? Yeah, you can lose a very important item in chapter 1, which will affect very heavily how you can approach the ending of the adventure. You can actually lose that item several times in this adventure. They're just like, no, you can't have this.
The cool thing about it is, because there are so many unique paths through this adventure and so many options, it has that replayability, which I think is awesome. So you can play it with one friend and then take it to another friend and be like, let's do this. Or you can be bored on a Sunday afternoon by yourself and be like, I'm going to play through this on my own. I'm going to play a different character this time. There'll be new choices and there will be new consequences.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and one cool thing we have is at the end we have a forum, very Telltale-esque, which lets you share. This was Dawn's idea. Lets you share what consequences and how your ending went, and get to compare it with everybody else that had played through it. So you can see like whether you're actually able to get this one ending and still have the, all of your destiny points in, or were you one of the very few who, well, if you're one of the very few who did that, or if you're one of the angels. Normal things.
You can be very heroic in this adventure, or you can be terrible. I mean, you can be just the worst. And I want to know how many people are the worst. I really do.
Yeah,
but
we do have one trait. We do have a trait that's called mean to holophants, where the flavor text literally says, mark mean to holophants, feel bad about yourself, and go to this section.
As they should. No one should be mean to holophants. But also, I would like to say, hey, if you guys are in chat right now, and you have questions about this module or publishing the DMs Guild or anything, just about what's going on in Encounter Roleplay in general, throw up your questions in the chat. We are here to answer them.
We are, and I do want to say a big thank you to chat, to everyone who has stopped by and have hit that retweet button. I've been quietly counting you in the background, and thank you for those resubs. And to our very good friend, I think it was Professor Nater, for that 100-bit donation, enjoying this show. So thank you very much for being here. We have about, I'm going to say 10 minutes left. We'll ignore the extra 3 minutes. So please throw those questions in chat for us. Don, we have something coming up soon. In fact, next weekend. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Do you want to say what it is?
Okay, so yeah, on the 28th from 3 p.m. Eastern, we have monthly Meat Grinder Castle Ravenloft edition, run by Jonathan Fry.
Yeah, it's a module that I've run a couple of times, and it's entirely unfair. It's not designed to have any survivors, because as any good meat grinder should be, but it's Castlevania inspired. That's the idea. Mm-hmm. So you can punch a wall and find a turkey leg inside and eat. Yeah, that's right. You can health up. You can gain hit points that way. You can find additions to make your weapons longer and things like that. And then it's wacky fun with gothic horror, kind of aesthetic, but it should be a fun time. It's been fun to run it in the past. And I get to do it for a bunch of people that I've not gotten to play with before, which is always really cool for me. And I always feel kind of bad when I kill a character in a game that I'm running usually, but I don't feel bad at all with this scenario.
This gets all your murderous instincts out, so you hopefully don't murder us all in your regular campaigns.
We'll see.
So we have a question in chat from the wonderful Edelyn. Lulu aside, who's your favorite NPC in the campaign, meaning to hell and back again, either to write or to play? So when I played with Susie as a two-person GM list, we actually took turns on playing the NPCs. And there is one NPC that you meet really near the end. And I know she was Susie's favorite, and she is quite the piece of work. But I had a lot of fun playing the bandits that you meet. They are very interesting too. What about you though, Don?
I liked writing the bandits, but I think my favorite character, besides Lulu, obviously, to write was Tanmo, which is the character you mentioned. I won't say anything else about her, except for she plays a very significant part near the end of the adventure. And the Lady in Green, also very, very interesting, which Kiana read that character, but I really enjoy the interactions with that character. As far as like to play, I've play tested all the different sample characters, and I want to say my favorite is Ekja. It's a half-orc fighter, dirty sense of humor, doesn't take crap from anybody, there's just something about, and we found really good art for all the sample characters have cool art, but I really, really love the art for that character, and for that reason, she kind of pops into my head the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Tenmo art is so good. But yeah, Lady in Green has a special place in my heart. I'm a big Faye person. About 80% of the stuff I have written and have been published or are being published are all Faye related. So I have a big history in researching Faye of all sorts of cultures, and particularly Celtic and all that stuff. So the Faye Lady in Green is inspired by one of my favorites. I'll give bonus points to anyone who is able to tell me on Twitter pretty much what she is, because she's pretty solidly based in an actual folklore. She's great. I love her a lot, and we get to see her both in Chapter 1 and Chapter 3, just in two very different situations.
Oh my. We also have a question from Chorus of Echoes in chat who asks, where would you point someone looking to start designing for RPGs?
Oh man. I think the first thing is to figure out what platform you're interested or what game you want to write for. Are you designing an indie game that's never been played before, or are you designing an adventure or a supplement for an existing game like Dungeons and Dragons? Kiana mentioned Itch.io earlier. If you're designing your own game from scratch, there's so many great independent games there that you can go check out and kind of see how other people are approaching, how they're thinking outside the box. Because really, you can take any idea that you have and gamify it. And Itch.io is a great platform. So if you decide that you like that platform, then you can look up online guides. How do I publish on Itch.io? How do I design an independent game? It's the same for DM's Guild, or if you're self-publishing a D&D book. There are a lot of really good guides there that can kind of work you through the technical details, because it is a whole process. You know, it starts with you writing, but then you have to actually make it into a perceivable product. There are workshops out there. I know there's the RPG Writers Workshop that Ashley Warren runs once a year. I know a lot of people have dipped their toes into writing for D&D that way. They've gotten to learn the steps, like here's where you start, here's how you create a manuscript and a style guide, and here's how you do layouts. So it all varies. I think research is the number one thing. There's an answer for any question you have that somebody who has already been through what you're trying to go through will give you, and on their blogs or on YouTube. So just look for the information that's most pertinent to what you want to do and start there. And then just consistency. When you write, you know, it's writing's like a muscle, and if you don't work it out constantly, it's really hard to finish a product. You can start something, but to actually finish something's hard. So if you can get yourself in the process of, even if it's poetry or free form, short stories, you can get yourself in the process of writing 1,000 to 2,000 words a day just to begin with. You do that 5 days a week, then you'll have the ability to finish products. And I think that's what most people struggle with. And I know it's something I used to struggle with until I made myself write consistently.
Yeah. And when it comes to looking more at industry work, if you're looking into working for publishers and stuff like that, being able to write consistently and then actually developing your own games and stuff helps to create a portfolio, which is really great. A lot of the contracts that I've gotten have come from the fact that I write a lot of 1 or 2 pager games on Itch.io, and have kind of gotten lets me exercise that not just writing, but also the game design muscle. But it also provides me a way to point at people and be like, this is the kind of stuff I write. This is the kind of voice I have. I have some grasp of these concepts and aspects of game design and all that stuff. So looking into what your goal is and what you're trying to do is super important, and being able to level set on that. So you can find the right platform and approach for you.
I think that brings us to nearly the end of time. So if you have any quick tips, let's throw those in now.
If you do get a job for a publisher, just hit your deadlines. If you miss deadlines, people will talk, and that's I think that's something that like a lot of writers struggle with. They get that first foot in the door, somebody gives them a deadline, and then they don't hit a deadline. And what you don't want to be is the person who isn't considered reliable. But a lot of getting jobs as a writer is being reliable. That's all.
Yeah. And coming from my other end of being very self-published indie game person, just experimenting with the type of stuff you do is very important. You know, there's going to be somebody who might be interested in what you do. The world is freaking huge, and you're going to have an audience for whatever you're going to try to write out. Whether that's something very niche or something very wide, whether that's an indie game or a D&D adventure, whatever else. So, you know, To Hell and Back Again is a very unconventional adventure in a lot of different ways, from its premise to its format, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think we found a really cool audience with it. So be able to explore, and Itch.io is a really great low risk way of doing that, and so is DM's Guild if you're pulling from the free assets. So again, just kind of finding that and just experimenting with your voice and fine tuning that. It does a lot.
Awesome. So thank you both so much for being here and writing this great game that I got to play yesterday and talking about it here today. I would love to hear about where we can find you on the internet and the projects that you have coming up that are exciting to you. Let's start with Don, then we'll go to Kiana, and then we will do Lindy and I on our outros.
Sure. You can find me mostly on Twitter at Donathan Fry. You can also find me oftentimes on Tales from the Grim Twitch channel. I'm in their Monday night games at 6 o'clock, Realms Remembered. I am the DM for May Black Roses Bloom, which all of these wonderful people are a part of, on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I play with Charlie on Thursdays in our Game of Thrones campaign, After the Fire, on RPG Webby. That's kind of what I do streaming-wise, and I think... Well, Kiana and I have we have another supplement coming out very soon on DM's Guild that ties into what we're doing right now. So
Yeah.
I'll hold off on
like
saying
Lulu,
exactly what it is.
If you
Just
like
say,
Lulu, that's kind of...
like,
yeah, you'll like this. Yeah.
But that's all. Yeah, otherwise I'm writing a bunch of stuff. I have a bunch of projects coming up that I'm really excited about, including Harper's Tale. I love what Matthew Corley's done, and I love getting work with that team of people on that project for such a great cause. But if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see everything that I'm up to.
And Kiana, anything you'd like to add and plug?
Yeah. Definitely keep an eye out for our DM's Guild release. Should be coming out soon. Yeah, y'all can find me over on Twitter at Kiana. I'm over the internet doing all sorts of tabletop role-playing things, whether that's streaming or writing or just shouting into the void that is Twitter. Other things to add, I am also one of the writers for Hearts of Wulin. So if you back that, or if you pre-order, it's a wuxia Powered by the Apocalypse game. I am writing one of their alternative settings to make it steampunk. So if you like steampunk and Legend of Korra and all that stuff, I'm kind of putting that all together into a very anti-colonialist setting. So it's super interesting that way. I'm also going to be at Big Bad Con in a couple of weeks. I am one of the Babylon Equity Project guests there. So I'm super excited to be there. So if you're going to go over and to Big Bad Con, make sure to say hello to me, as I'll be running a couple games, but mostly I'll just be hanging out and spending time and networking and all that stuff. So that's really the big stuff for me. Super excited to continue doing stuff, and thanks for having us, Charlie and Lindy. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you very soon. Woof. Goodbye, guests. So this has been our very first roleplay roundup. It's kind of been a tiny bit of an experiment to see how this is going to work, but this is what we plan to do every 2 weeks here on Encounter Roleplay. I do want to take a second to shout out Encounter Roleplay's sponsors, Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice, Tabletop Loot, who give away fantastic dice. We try and do that on every show that we run on this channel. And of course, Wayland Games, where you can get your miniatures, war games, board games, and more for up to 20% off a regular retail price. So please go and check them out. They keep us doing things like this, as well as a shout out to Zweihander, our Wednesday sponsor, with their wonderful game and just released Mangosh that we talked about today. Lindy, anything you'd like to talk about in these final moments?
Yeah, I would like to talk about The Lost Girls, which is a podcast that Encounter Roleplay does. I'm going to throw up the links in chat. You can check it out on Twitter and on Patreon, which supports the podcast directly. If you like vampires, werewolves, spooky stuff, shenanigans, and occasional smooches, check it out. It's super duper fun. Episode 8 just got published yesterday, so, there's not a big backlog to catch up on. You can just binge it in, a week and enjoy it. Also, you can just follow me online at LaughLoveLindy, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff. I play in and GM a lot of tabletop RPGs because I'm an addict. Just follow me on Twitter for what I'm going live and where. You can find me also here on Encounter Roleplay every Tuesday for Tentacle Tuesday and on Thursday for Death's Curios.
And that is about it. Please do come back and join us tomorrow for Ravnica Under Fire at 6 p.m. Eastern. That is our Monday night show. I am very excited for the return of Ravnica and that crew. And we are through for a whole long week next week. With a special change on Friday, we have Alien RPG from Free League, DM'd by Travis from WebDM. And of course, on Saturday, we have that meat grinder where we will be announcing the winners of our big relaunch giveaway. 3 massive bundles of books, including Call of Cthulhu, D&D, Zweihander, and more. In addition to other little giveaways that we will be doing throughout that stream. So please do join us back here on twitch.tv/EncounterRoleplay. This season we are paying our casts, and the fund drive for the meat grinder is all going towards them. So in addition to 100% of our Patreon and the 50% of our normal donations, every donation on that day is going into the cast pot so that we can pay them for their time, costumes, theme track, and more. That's everything from me. Thank you so much for joining us here on Roleplay Roundup. We are back on October 6th when Sam, RPG Webby of Black Cats Gaming, will be joining us to talk about the spy game. Until then, take care, everyone.
Goodbye.